Hi guys, thank you for that excellent intro. And I'm here to talk just about automating SolidWorks with DriveWorks Solo. Hopefully by the end of this, I would have been able to show you how you can save time and you can actually automate repetitive CAD modeling and design processes. Now, as you already know, I'm Connor Fadden. I'm a technical specialist here at DriveWorks, and I'm actually part of the technical team. Now, before we get started, I thought it might be a little important just to give you a little insight into the man behind the camera. I'm part of my day-to-day roles. So obviously, as part of the technical team, broad range of roles. But some of the main ones are obviously testing. Now, testing and quality assurance is a huge part of our roles in tech. We want to make sure that the product is as good as it can be whenever it goes out to our actual customers. Now, on top of this testing, there's obviously developing the product. Now, in tech, we take great pride in this. And one of our main roles is to actually design and enhance the product by bringing in advanced feature parameters. Now, I'm not going to show you any of them in here today. However, just keep an eye out for them if you do get a chance to go ahead and use DriveWorks Solo. They're great, believe me. They give you so much more granular design over your actual automation process and allow you to do so much more. But essentially, we just take the SolidWorks API, put it into DriveWorks, and just give you an added level of enhancement. And then finally, obviously, support. At DriveWorks, we try and give the best customer support as possible. And who knows, I may have even sent an email or two out to some of you guys. So now you know about me, I think it's probably about time that you learn a bit more about DriveWorks, because that's what you're all here for. So obviously, we were established in 2001 in the UK, but since then we have expanded ourselves and we do currently have employees in America and New Zealand. We currently have over 2,000 unique companies using DriveWorks across the world as well. And we're a proven quality solution supported by multiple certificates and awards. Now, we're actually a SolidWorks Gold partner across all three levels of DriveWorks. So that's DriveWorksXpress, DriveWorks Solo, and DriveWorks Pro. Now, I'm sure as Bridie already mentioned during her talk on DriveWorksXpress, but you may have forgotten since then that actually DriveWorksXpress is included in every seat of SolidWorks. As well as this, we have multiple annual releases each year, including a major version. Now, recently, we just put the finishing touches on DriveWorks 21, which introduced loads and loads of new features. So we tried to integrate even more with more technologies. We brought in web technology, we enhanced our 3D capabilities inside of DriveWorks Pro, and just built on the strong foundations that we already had. And then finally, we actually hold a Queen's Award for innovation and international trade. This is one of the most prestigious awards for any UK business. Now, DriveWorks is actually flexible and scalable. Like anything, we hope that you can start small and you can upgrade at any time. As I said, Express is included in every desktop seat of SolidWorks. But today we're going to be talking about Solo. Now, Solo gives you even more design control. So with Solo, that's not included in Express, you have the ability to control more of your actual drawing automation. So this gives you more of the capability to set what views you want to display to the customer, how these are actually presented, where you're actually going to position those annotations. All little things like this just bring an extra level to your actual designs. As well as this, Solo gives you the ability to automate your documents as well. So you may want to send out quotes, bill of materials, all of these to your customers, so that way they can actually see what they're getting after you're able to go through your actual configuration process there. And then, of course, you're able to preview your documents and your actual designs inside of Solo just to see what you're getting during your actual configuration process to make sure that it is exactly what you want. Now, of course, Solo as well, there are additional learning resources and help files that we've already made. You can access these through driveworkssolo.com and then just search for the welcome and the Solo page. And then finally, one crucial part, as I'm sure some of you hopefully already have, during Bridie's talk, I'm sure you went off and created your own configurator with Express with all your roles and got everything sorted. But of course, you don't want to go from Express and then have to completely reinvent everything whenever you go to Solo. You don't have to. It's totally upgradable. So you can go straight from Express to Solo, and we make this as smooth a process as possible. Then obviously we're going to talk about Solo today, so I won't get too much into Pro. I might pick out a few little bits that I really enjoy while we're going through this, but just to give you a bit more insight into what Pro is. But Pro generally is just that complete SolidWorks part and drawing automation process. You can automatically generate manufacturing and sales documents just like Solo, but you can actually browse through specific designs. You can push it then to DriveWorks Live, have your own online configurator. And then as well, as I mentioned previously, you have the whole 3D technology that you can then go ahead and utilize. It just gives you an extra level to your whole configurator, improving your actual customer's experience. So DriveWorks, powerful design automation for SolidWorks. It's a leading SolidWorks part, assembly, and drawing automation. You capture and reuse designs, engineering, and manufacturing knowledge to deliver customer products faster. But what does all this mean? What are the benefits to something like this? Well, when you automate custom designs, you're easing pressure on your actual engineering team. They don't have to go in and make all these small changes, like if it was just to change the height of a specific model, but they have to go through, re-reference all the rules, make sure that their assembly is correct. DriveWorks will go off and do this for you. This makes it a lot easier on your engineering teams, that then enables you to go ahead and focus on innovating, creating that next stage, that next step of your actual product. It allows you to be a lot more flexible. Obviously, as you probably already know, because I know Bridie would have covered it loads during her Express talk, DriveWorks is a rules-based calculation system. And that means that you can eliminate costly engineering errors as you're taking out the human error side of it and just allowing it to be what the rule you've set up. That being, if you've already created everything in variables, so that way you can reference them inside of your rules, means that your engineers aren't going in, making any mistakes that's then coming back to you in time. These rules, something to mention and something that's key, is that they're actually based on familiar Excel syntax, such as if, ands, ors, which all means that they're super easy to use and learn as you're going through. And then finally, as I said, DriveWorks, easy to set up. I'll show you during our talk here today how easy it is to go through, capture, and configure something that you want to then enhance. And then, of course, once you've gone through, captured it, configured it, went through and created all your rules, the whole design process, you get to run this configurator as many times as you see fit, and you can just let it go. So I hope at this stage you're all thinking, wow, this sounds amazing, but how do I get started? Well, for those of you who are unaware, there are actually 4 steps to automation with DriveWorks. Now, the first of these is to capture. I feel like I might have covered this a little bit previously, but you want to capture the parameters you want to control. So whether this is the height, the width, the depth of the actual cut that you're going to do in your extrude, what you're actually going to do is capture all of those in DriveWorks. Then next, you're going to build UI for them. So you obviously got to build the actual form to enter the parameters that you want to write for the components and parameters that you've already captured. And then where is this all leading? Obviously, you've got to create rules for these. So you have to use the UI that you've already built. This might be as simple as a slider that you said, I want it to be this wide and never leave these parameters, and then make sure to link it to the component that you've captured. So that might be the width then of the input that you've already built. And then these are the obviously setup process. So you've got to capture, build, and create. Then finally, once you've gone through all this process, you obviously can run the configurator. You can let it out, and you can configure and automate everything during that. That obviously goes through everything that we just discussed, eliminates errors. It allows you to go through and configure anything that you see fit once you have everything captured. So Now that we've obviously talked about the steps to DriveWorks and what's included and everything, I want to actually show you it in action. I feel like this is best if I just show you how it all works. So as you can see, I have SolidWorks here, and this is DriveWorks loaded up in the left, or on the right, sorry. So if I just open up my top level assembly, you'll be able to see that it is just our agricultural trailer. Now, obviously, we have our wheel on the front. We have everything in here already captured because it's something that I didn't want to go through with you on here. But we have a couple of other features suppressed in here. But I just want to show you an example if we go through then and configure this. So obviously, we enter all of our data because we will need this for our actual drawings. And those of you who are noticing, you'll see that slowly these little boxes no longer have this yellow accent on the side. This is because all of these have rules written for them. So it's not specific. You don't have to write specific rules for just your parts that you're configuring. You can have form inputs just to make sure that whenever you're going through the configuration process, that the inputs that you're putting in are correct. For instance, if I look at my email category here and I remove the @ symbol, you'll see that my actual yellow bar has come back again. And we can't then proceed to the next step without actually entering a valid email. Something like this might be minuscule to others, might be huge to others. It means that your actual drawings, your actual bill of materials, any document that you then want to send off to the customer is possible because you know that they've entered a valid email address. So now that we've gone through this whole process of entering our details, we get to our configuration page. So we'll just make a trailer who's as long as possible, and we want it to include prop stands because we know that our configuration here doesn't include them. And in this case, we're not going to include any other accessories, but we'll include the mud flaps and the rings. So once we've gone through this, we finish everything and we go to our generation process. Now that we've set this off, it may take a couple of minutes, but believe me, it is way shorter than having your engineers go in and obviously edit these parts, edit the assembly, change everything that they need to change. It's just going through and going to do all this for you. But you're probably wondering, how does DriveWorks do this? Well, DriveWorks is able to do this. Apologies about that. DriveWorks is able to do this as it actually goes in and finds your master configure or your master assembly and all of its associating parts that you've captured and creates copies of those. As I'll show you at the end, we can compare our actual copies of the files to our top level assembly. But to not get too ahead of ourselves, DriveWorks will go in and create copies of your actual master model files. It will then place them in what we call a specification location. This is something in DriveWorks that you configure in the actual settings where you want all of your models and documents and everything to go. So you have one source of truth whenever it comes to your actual created specifications. This means that it's just super easy to go into if a customer or a colleague asks you, oh, can I see your, in this case, agricultural trailer, the 35th specification that you created. All you have to do is go into your specification folder, find that 35th specification, and all your files will be there. So once you've obviously created and copied those master model files, put them in the specification location, you then go ahead and make any amendments. But in this case, you don't make any amendments. You just have to let DriveWorks run with it. And as you can see from the drawing that you have in front of you, you can see that it's going ahead, doing all of your design automation for you, obviously rescaling all of your drawings, putting all of the actual specifications that we put in. So that's our trailer length, our trailer width, our height, and all of our additional options. Obviously, we only chose prop stand, our rings, and obviously the mud flaps. So as you can see, at the end of it, you get a lovely drawing. Everything's done for you. It saves loads of time, loads of time. Believe me, if you want to go away and download any of these demos and then go away and make any of these changes manually and see if it can do it. If you can do it quicker than DriveWorks can do it, then a high five is in order, I think. So obviously this may take a couple of minutes because for drawings, we have to actually open the part, make sure that all the references are correct so we don't lose any of those references, and then go back in and fix all of those references in our drawing. But as you can see here, I'm not sure if you can, you might be able to see it a little better on the final model once we finish our actual specification process, that we actually have a wheel in here whenever this isn't something that we captured or, sorry, configured during our specification process. So eventually when this comes to the end, I'll show you how we can actually go ahead and change that then. Now, I really hope that SolidWorks hasn't crashed on me, because it always happens whenever you need it most, it seems. Ah, no, it seems like we've gotten past it now. Fingers crossed. There we go. We're just going through our drawings, making sure that everything is correct. I hope. And there we go. Now we can see that we have our final assembly. It's just finishing off all of the last little changes. You'll see here in this drawing specifically what DriveWorks does. So now it has resized and rescaled all of those drawings and amended all of those little annotations so that way they're in the correct position. So that way none of them are off the sheet. We have all of our BOM there. And obviously we can send these documents off. Obviously DriveWorks won't just send the drawing off. It has the capability of creating additional file formats that you can capture. So if you just want a PDF of your actual drawing, instead of sending the drawing off to your actual manufacturing floor, totally possible. You just have to capture this as an additional file format, and during the actual generation process, it'll send it off. It'll create it for you. DriveWorks will do everything. So obviously, as we come to the end of our generation process, we have our final design, as you just saw in the background. And this will indeed have, as we saw in the previous drawing, our wheel here. Now, in this case, once we finish all of our design automation, which this is exactly what it's doing, our design automation is going through anything that we've actually captured. So we've obviously captured all of these drawings against all of these parts to make sure it's all referenced correctly. We can then rescale, resize, reposition everything as you would relative to the parts, include bill of materials inside of each drawing, making sure that it has all of the correct dimensions, so that way it's all ready for manufacturing. So now we've actually finished. There we go. This is our final trailer assembly. As you saw at the very beginning, I configured it to be as long as possible, have our prop stands, as you can see here. However, during our process, as I said, I didn't actually select this wheel to be part of our actual final design. So we can go ahead and amend that now. So what we're going to do is go back. We're going to close everything, go back to our master assembly, which we can just do by double-clicking on the capture models. And then we know that this is obviously the master assembly. And then here we're going to go ahead and try and find the spare wheel and carrier. So then we want to make sure to tick this box. This box now means that we've captured it, and we want to capture all of the associating parts. So we can go ahead and save this now and head on in to our actual project designer. This is our project designer. Obviously, we're going to implement the four steps of the automation process. So step one, we've captured. Step two is we need to create our actual form inputs. Now, in this case, I've already made these, made them look all pretty. This is an example project that you're more than welcome to go ahead and configure yourself. It can be found at driveworks.co.uk, example projects. I'm sure Bridie will be able to give you all of the relevant links to all the things. So I've created this actual form input already. All we have to do is know the actual name of it. And in this case, it's spare wheel. So then we go back into our model rules. We'll refresh this, which should now have our captured spare wheel in. So then we'll have a look and search for it. And as we can see, there it is. This is our spare wheel. We can see it's down here in the associating part. So then we tick this box because we want to actually start writing rules for it. Now, in this case, we're going to actually write a rule for the actual file name. So we're going to double click, which will happily open up our rules builder here. And we'll go ahead and write a rule. Now, in this case, as I said, we want to make sure that whenever that box isn't ticked, that it will not actually be in our final assembly. So we'll simply just write a normal syntax, which is if, in this case, it is our spare wheel return. So that is if our checkbox has returned true or false. So in this case, if our returns true, then we want it. In this case, as you can see, our first value is if the condition is true. So if our spare wheel equals true, then all we simply want is for it to be the master name. And all that would do is just use the master model name of the actual file instead of writing DW specification and so on. We do this because we're not actually changing anything on this specific wheel. So we don't need to create a new part for it. All we need to do is make sure that it's captured. So that way we can control the actual state of it. So obviously we've got this. So this is if it's true. Obviously then we need a false condition. So if it's false, then we just want to go ahead and delete it. So as you can see, our rule, a current evaluation is false. If you want more information then, you can go ahead and look. And I know this may be big for some people that have already looked in DriveWorksXpress because you don't have this. You have a version of it, but this is another enhancement whenever you move to Solo. You get to actually get a full breakdown of where your rule is. So obviously we can see our if equation. Then if it's equal to true, then obviously it will mean that it's false. So we'll be looking for the delete, which is what we have. Now, obviously, we do need a relative path. So this means that it will go to our specification folder. And in this case, here is just a variable that I made earlier. Variables are great. Variables are fantastic. It doesn't mean that you need to keep writing the same rule over and over again. So if I just quickly have a look here, you can see that all of my other parts are just using the variable for variable standard components. And inside of this variable, all it is simply a rule. It's simply just going to look at our specification folder and then put it in SolidWorks files, SolidWorks models. This means that you don't have to go in then and manage this rule in all the places. If you change the specification location, if you want to have, instead of a specific models location, you want to create an assembly location. This means you can build on this. So we have this new variables tab inside of DriveWorks Solo. Obviously, I've already gone ahead and created a bunch of variables, but in this case, you can just see they're super simple rules that can be referenced all over your form. And it means that they're super manageable. If you want to change a certain aspect of it and change it across your entire form, you don't have to go find them all. Change it in one place, it'll change everything you need. It's great, believe me. So now that we have obviously configured our top level spare wheel, we want to make sure that the part has the correct name as well. So we'll just use the exact same rule, or not the exact same in this case, because since we've referenced it at the top level to delete it, we don't actually need to say that as it's a child of this top level. So all we need to say is make sure it's master name if it's not deleted. Because if our top level is deleted, subsequently means that this is going to be deleted. And of course, we want to make sure of the exact same that we have our variable standard part. And this one. And as I showed you before, all it is simply just a rule. Look up to our project location, stick it in a standard part location. And that's it. That's all we need to do. We've gone through our 3 steps of setup. So we've gone through our capturing, we've captured the wheel, we've gone through our form controls, so our actual user input, which is just simply our checkbox that I created earlier, and we've actually wrote our rule. So next step, configure. We can go ahead and save everything that we've already done. It's always good to double check to make sure that all of your changes have gone through as you expect. So you can see that we've gone ahead and all of our rules have saved. So we can go ahead and start our configurator again. Once again, we want to make sure that all of our documents go to the correct location. So that way we can get our bill of materials and anything else during the actual process. Make sure that everything is valid, so that way everything goes away and we can move on to the next step. Make sure that our final price is in Great British pounds. And then all we're going to do this time, we're going to change it up a little. We're going to make sure that the trailer is still maximum length, make sure that it's minimum width, and then we can go next. And again, we can include the prop stand. And this time we'll actually also include the ladder rack, but we're going to ensure that we leave the spare wheel unticked. So we want to make sure that the spare wheel is not included inside of our final assembly. We also don't want any mud flaps or any rings. So now that we can see our accessories for prop stand and ladder rack have been specified, we only want one and we get our quotation value. All this is just another variable inside DriveWorks where it's put all of your data, it knows what calculation it's got to do, because all it is simple Excel syntax, and it's able to give you a quotation value at the end of your actual configuration process. Now, this isn't static. As I said, it's a rule. If I go back and I then say I want to give it side panels at maximum height, we then go to the end, you can see our quote value has changed again. So we'll go ahead and finish up our actual process. So now, once again, this will go through, take a copy, as I've already said, of our actual master model files and put them into our specification location over here, amend all of our changes. And this time we're hoping and wanting to make sure that our actual wheel, our spare wheel, isn't included inside of our final assembly. Now, this will take approximately, I'd say around 5 minutes or so, just to configure, as you saw previously. So we'll just go through this whole process again. Of course, as I already said, it has to go through, has to find all the parts, has to find all the references. As you can see, we're selecting all of the components, making sure that we delete any entities and then rebuilding everything. You can get a model generation report down here that gives you everything that you need to know. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner, it tells you everything that you need to know. So obviously you're going to save all the models with the final file names that we've already given. So the final file names in this case will be our master model name for that actual tire assembly that I showed you before. However, some of these other parts won't have master model name because we don't want them to be standard parts. So all of our side panels, all of our gating, stuff like that is all stuff that changes variably. So if we had it at a standard model, then that wouldn't get copied by DriveWorks because we would just see it as a standard model. We need to create a new model, make sure that it is the correct height, and do all of our changes to make sure that we get our actual final product as we actually see it. Now, I don't know if you saw it there briefly, but I believe everything has worked as we intended. Now, obviously, as I said before, drawings do tend to take just that little bit longer because we have to make sure that the file is open. We have to make sure that all of the references are correct, but it's all part of the process. As I said, save you loads of time. Imagine going through and changing all of these, and then you're having to change them back in case someone wants something else, and so on. It just gives you more of a granular approach, DriveWorks Solo does. And that's personally, I think it's great. It's definitely a huge step up from Express. And then again, I seriously urge anyone, and I know we were speaking about it briefly just before this actual meeting about DriveWorks Pro. I would urge anyone, if you get a chance, please go ahead and give it a go. You can go ahead even, you don't need to have the software on your machine. You can go ahead and give it a go. If you go across to driveworkslive.co.uk, you can see all of the configurators that we've already built here at DriveWorks. Now, I don't mean to blow our own trumpet in this case, but we at DriveWorks like to say that we are the biggest users of DriveWorks in the world. Obviously, I already discussed test and development, everything else, but we like to create and configure our own demos inside of DriveWorks, showing customers what it's possible, what 3D can do, showing you all of the possibilities of DriveWorks. And if you go across to driveworkslive.com, you'll see all of the configurators that we've actually already gone ahead and built. Now, one of my favorites personally is the Vista demo. It's our brand new CPQ demo. So any of you that are into price and quote, please go ahead and give that a look as well. So in DriveWorks Pro, personally, my favorite is 3D. This is why I'm a huge fan of the Vista demo. That's just personal preference. It's what I enjoy most. I love seeing the whole process of creating a node structure, setting up animations, giving the user an extra level of interactability during their actual configuration process. But that's Pro. Maybe on another day, we'll come back and we'll be able to give you all another talk on DriveWorks Pro. But for now, let's continue, and we'll continue to focus on DriveWorks Solo, as I believe, fingers crossed, our configuration or specification in this case is almost finished. And I don't know if you all got a glimpse of it briefly. As you can see, that we don't actually have a wheel there. And this is precisely what we wanted. Now, there's one more thing that I did want to show you after this is obviously completed. I mentioned briefly about the ability in DriveWorks to obviously, we can create drawings. You're seeing them here in front of you. But behind the scenes, I mentioned that we actually do also create documents. So once we have finished this whole configuration process, I'll actually be able to show you a couple of documents that DriveWorks has also created on top of all of these drawings and models. So that way, that it's capable of even more. It gives you so much more automation process, so much more automation power coming from Express. But as I said, there's a 30-day free trial. Anyone, please feel free to go ahead and try that yourself. So that's it. We have our final model. And thankfully, we have no wheel. So that means all of our rows were successful. We didn't have that spare wheel tick. So that means that it wasn't part of our final assembly. Now, as I was saying, this is where everything will go. This is our specification or results folder in this case. And we just ran our trailer number 7. We can see that our SOLIDWORKS files have been separated into models and drawings. But if you see here, these are all of the parts that I was speaking about previously that have been copied. And all of these will have the correct dimensions and be referenced correctly with our final assembly. But as I said before, I want to show you a couple of documents. So obviously you have a cover letter in this case that you actually are able to send to the final customer. All this is simply just a HTML page that DriveWorks is able to create. And all it is just saying and giving you your details that you've put in. That's me, Connor Fadden, and these have all been sent to my email address because I've put in a valid email. Of course, that's just the cover letter. If you want to then go ahead and also send them bill of materials, this is also here. And we've also gone ahead and created a quote because everyone needs a quote. You need to know how much at the end of the day everything is going to cost. And we're able to actually break that down in DriveWorks Solo, showing you that your additional parts, so that's your prop stand in this case, is going to cost this much. Your ladder rack is going to cost this much. And all of your actual configured product is going to cost this much, giving you a total down here. And obviously with normal Excel syntax, as I keep on saying, it's just creating a simple calculation to add your actual tax on. So now that you know DriveWorks Solo, we can go ahead and continue. So, as I've kept on saying throughout this whole process, DriveWorks Solo, it's a 30-day free trial. No reason not to go try it. Please feel free. It just gives you so much more capabilities. You can upgrade your Express. If you've already got an Express model, please upgrade it. Show me the capabilities of DriveWorks Solo from your Express model. You can enhance everything. So please feel free to go ahead and have a go with all the core design automation and UI builder functionality for free. Gives you access to powerful design automation functionality, saves you time, and self-improve DriveWorks by setting it up yourself. Now, if any of you are interested, there is also a Solo certification on our DriveWorks learning portal. So feel free to go ahead, once you've got the grips with Solo, to go ahead and do that certification. But I highly recommend one of two routes, either going ahead, starting a new project, or upgrading your Express project. If you want to even go ahead and grab one of our Solo projects that we've already set up, such as this actual agricultural trailer, it can be found on driveworks.co.uk. So unfortunately, that does bring us to the end of our presentation today, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you all for listening.